service to order at 6:39 PM, please.
We got another two right over here.
Okay, Mr. Conte, right?
Right, they're all turned up and ready to go.
Can I borrow one?
Okay, from the docket of June 2nd, 2015, I entertain a motion to hold a public hearing Tuesday, June 16, 2015.
Regarding
Did you do that last week?
Mr. Blair,
Yeah, did you do that? She has it on my minutes, but did you call for the public hearing? I'll
I
do it
think
just in
that's the only
case.
one I did.
yeah, so
I'll do it just in case. Public hearing on Tuesday, June 16, 2015, to amend Article 16, uniform and clothing allowances of personnel rules and regulations for exempt employees, just in case. Just in case.
I'll do a second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, I entertain a motion to establish the position of Constituent Services Administrator on the classification plan at grade 4 to efficiently carry out the duties within the mayor's office.
Second.
Thank you. And Owen is here this evening. You may come up, Owen, please. Thank you. In case anyone had any questions.
Welcome back. 2 weeks in a row. Aren't you lucky?
I know. Thank you for coming down too. I'm so glad you're so agreeable to always come whenever we need you, so thank you. Okay, did you want to read what the position is? Do you have that in front of you, or would you want me to, or just what the backup was that, or? Okay, it says, the position is being created in order to efficiently carry out the duties of the mayor's office. As the mayor is sure that you can appreciate daily on the mayor's office serves a variety of individuals and businesses within the community. We all represent, as well as matters throughout the Commonwealth that impact the city of Attleboro. In order to effectively assist people navigate business of government, as well as assist businesses and individuals to help thrive within our city, the mayor believes this position will add a great deal of value to the city. While constituent services will be primary focus of the position, the mayor is certain that additional efficiencies throughout the city will be the result of this position. As a point person will provide coordination of services throughout departments. The mayor feels compelled to note that the administrative support staff of the mayor's office already serves our community well. This position is intended to enhance the operations of the office of the mayor and provide much needed additional support to the office, as constant and always growing demands of the mayor's office cannot continue to be met without this additional permanent support. Okay, and I'll open the floor. I know Walter had some questions. Did you know during the budget, or if anyone else had any questions?
A different position.
For Owen? Yes, Mr. Churchill.
Sir, is this gonna improve things that haven't taken place now, or to do things that don't take place now, or both?
Probably both. Be handling a lot of the constituent services, more streamlined. Also to be involved with like a point person within the departments. This will help. I know there's a position right now that's up there that's an interim position, but this will more solidify that position, maybe give it a little bit more defined role, so to speak.
So we're saying that it's an interim position being bumped up to a full-time position? Or is it also
The
gonna be an
interim
interim?
position will be eliminated. This codifies a more permanent position and establishes more responsibility.
All right, sir. So the part-time person, well, that position will now be full-time.
That position would go away and the new position would be full-time.
But there's still 3 people there.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Conte.
In our budget, originally, we had an assistant mayor's position. It was a very senior position, it was a very high-end position. The salary was meant to be a well-versed, well-educated, well-experienced manager of complicated and diverse managers. And the mayor, before you arrived, went through at least a couple people trying to find someone that would fit into that office and failed to do so. Now, and 2 years ago, or last year, I voted against him hiring an intern because I felt that that position of the senior staffer was more critical than bringing in someone at the bottom end of the responsibility ladder. So my question as a personnel director, personnel manager, knowing barely the duties and responsibilities of the mayor's office, and I understand you're new, but you come out of a field that I would think regularly dealt with these kind of issues, whether or not you bring someone in at the top or you bring someone in at the bottom. Would you care to elaborate on what you know about those two different approaches?
Sure. It's funny, I started off working in government, because I was also elected as you were. But I started working in government as an assistant to the mayor in the city of Woonsocket. But I had a lot of government background as an elected official, as a board member, and in various other positions before I took that position. So I came in knowing a great deal, like you had elaborated to, a high-end level type of position. So I can see where establishing this position really takes care of the core needs of that officer right now. You're getting a lot of volume from your constituency, a lot, from what I've seen. And I was a little bit surprised when I came here, you didn't have something like this, whether it be titled this or some other title that dealt with this issue. Because I dealt with constituent issues, my previous position dealt with it partly, but not totally. I can see building into that office, this position on a base, kind of like in a base level, to see how this really works out, which is something you really need immediately. If down the line, in years from now, you say, you know what, we need more upper level skilled positions, I can see rearranging that office, maybe not adding to it, but maybe eliminating that, and then building up to a higher position. But I think maybe right now, looking at it as just coming in, I think this is your base need, definitely, and with a little bit more codification and giving this position a little bit more broad job responsibilities beyond constituent services, although not as high as an assistant to the mayor, I think that's a very good start.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, Heather.
Thank you very much. So I guess my question would be, after Chairperson Hegney read the definition, and it says it'll be a liaison for businesses, and what would the difference be then between an upper level mayor's assistant? What more responsibility would a mayor's assistant have?
Great example when I had that position.
Great.
Good example. I was leading projects for the mayor. This person wouldn't be leading it.
Okay.
They're the go-between.
Okay.
And there is a big difference, I can tell you. And I was writing speeches, and it was a far different level. That's not what this would be. So that would be the difference.
Okay. May I follow up? Thank you. So the current interim position, is it what we're paying for that interim position comparable to what the new position would be, like year long? Or is that, like, how much higher is
Well,
the?
I don't have it with me. I can tell you right now, this is going to be placed at a grade 4.
Which is?
It would be step 1, grade 4, which is a starting pay of $41,721. $41,721.
Thank you. Thank you.
So basically, like, the assistant would be more of like a chief of staff kind of position.
Close
where
to that, yeah,
you're almost-
definitely. In
We've been
that,
lucky over the years that our mayor is very active, and when people call him, he does, but we do have 44,000 people in this city. So say even as a counselor, we could still go to department heads, but maybe go to this person, and they would streamline it.
there's a lot of things going on. Sometimes you need that one person, that point person to coordinate between the
It's more
departments.
organized.
Right.
Just a comment that I think the mayor's assistant was starting at 65,
I don't know what it was
yeah.
in that budget at that time, I don't know.
60, 65
Yeah.
is ringing a bell with me, that's why I'm
Right, this would be a lower
a
grade.
lower grade.
Yeah, because we would be more like a chief of staff almost as an assistant, because like you said, we talked about this when you were at Woonsocket.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Cooper.
So what it sounds like is you was seeking to have what in the, excuse me, the private world we call project managers. And the calls that I've received on this, based on the press, has been around the whole title of the position although I understand the role, I don't necessarily understand the title. Because I think in terms of constituent services, that's what the 11 of us do. But I've spoken to, and I understand, you know, they're working on other projects. They, from time to time, need to submit certain things to the state for projects that they're working on, brownfield things and mass grants and those kinds of things. So I get that, but in my head, I see that more as a project manager, and I think perhaps, I could be wrong, but I think that the title of the position sent the wrong message.
Maybe that's it, that's the preliminary duties of this, is to deal with the public, the constituents. However, those other elements that you mentioned are in the, on the job specifications. So yes, they would be involved in that.
Thank you. And you said, I didn't want to step on you. You all set?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. One of the things I think I need to hear from you is how this position is a need in this office. You said how it's urgently needed. Can you explain to us how you know that this is urgently needed within the mayor's office?
I was surprised, when I came to this city, it was exciting to come to this city because you had so many projects going on. It was very vibrant, which is really one good reason why I'm here. I was kind of surprised you didn't have something like this here, whether it be called that title or something in that realm, because you do get a lot of people know the mayor's number. When you're in a city that's lots going on, it energizes your base, it energizes the constituents. But one thing I learned from my past experiences, that seems like a catch-all office, and I can see that happening here, quite frankly. And then things get lost in translation with people, and if you didn't have that, if you don't have that person, you sometimes some people tend to go the wayside, and you don't want to do that, just from past experience. So seeing that, that's why, from my past experience, I can tell you that something along these lines, if you call it this or not, but this is really kind of important to go through, because we live it every day up there. And I know, as a council person myself in the past, I know you guys get calls all the time, or emails and whatnot, but that office really gets a lot of calls, no matter what city, whatever busy city, this is a busy city, so no matter what city you get, that office gets a lot of calls, because some people just don't know who to call, but they know that number for some reason, or that office.
Did you find when you were the assistant to the mayor, that you got those type of calls from people that didn't know where to call? And
Yep.
to help a constituent find his way? I know we all do that, but we're not here 5 days a week, 40 hours. Well, Heather is.
I see the councilwoman, yes.
I got the first one tonight, she'll give you.
Well done. That was actually almost like a compliment. I'll take it, so thank you.
I know how much easier I think it would be for a constituent to have somebody they could call. If it's an immediate problem that could be squared away, it doesn't take till Tuesday night or the following Wednesday or whatever for us to make a phone call. You know, if it's serious enough, I'm sure we're gonna get the call anyway, and we're gonna get
you're right.
involved. But I would think it would alleviate some of the problems that normally we would get, only maybe too late. So I look forward.
I hear you, because one thing I learned back then is people's mindset is, I'm calling the mayor's office. For whatever reason,
Yeah,
and that's where it ends up. So yes.
yeah.
And
Thank
then
you.
they also have the administration has like department meetings every week, so I know even if we do go to a department head, it's not really stepping on our toes, we can still do that ourselves. But maybe having that organized when they have their meetings, they might see a consistency, a grouping of like nucleus of problems too. Different areas too, that if the person then directs the different issues, there might be numerous different issues. Kind of like we have the crime analyst over there, and they also have the groupings of different things, and you see a pattern of things too. And communication streamlined too. Yes.
well, I guess I think that's where my concern with regards to creating this, I have a couple concerns with regards to creating this position. I've talked to a variety of people throughout the city, and they have they have a want for not necessarily a mayor's assistant or this particular position, but a business development director is more forth, they value that higher than this. And I was wondering, as I'm going through this and reading it and thinking about it, I can see the need, and I'm sympathetic to the mayor's office, but my thought is if someone's calling here and they get the switchboard operator, I want the mayor's office, may I ask what this call's in regards to? Well, I want to tell you about the pothole on Morey Street. You know what, that's who goes to the DPW. Is there a way, I guess what my question is that instead of creating a new position that people aren't necessarily super excited about publicly, if there's a way to retrain what's going on here inside the staff here to correct those issues. That's what my hesitation is. So, just so you know.
Yes.
Recognizing that the mayor's your boss, and you're here tonight because the mayor asked you to be here, well, the council asked you to be here. You've had enough experience in the trade as a personnel expert to see that the governance reflects the management style of the individual. In Warwick, was it a centralized mayoral office or was it a decentralized governance? In other words, I don't know.
What are you saying?
Woonsocket.
Socket.
Woonsocket.
I don't know what the terms are in the personnel industry or profession, but if we could stereotype management styles in two classes, one being the desire to bring everything into control and the other to flatten the organizational chart to distribute the responsibility among many people. Have you seen those two styles of management in government?
I'd say Woonsocket was similar style-wise and organizational wise to Attleboro. Particularly, even the type of mayor I worked was very involved, like Mayor Dumas is now. Same style. Very involved. Uses, in that case, was the assistant's position as a sometimes lead or go-between any departments because they were dealing with 6 or 7 other issues at the same time. So the similarities were there.
Have you had any experience in any government or business entity that had a flattened organizational chart?
Not flat, not necessarily, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you for coming in tonight. Like Councilor Parika, I too would like to see a city hire an economic director. Haven't had one in that position in a long time. I think we're at the right point to do that. But that's not what this meeting is about. But to pick up on what Councilor Parika was saying, that scenario works okay where if you call the switchboard in the morning while someone's there to guide you through that. If you call the switchboard after noontime, you get a recording telling you what the extensions are of all of the different departments. If by chance you don't happen to know which department that you want to contact because whoever you have talked to already hasn't guided you in this direction or that direction, then by the time you do decide to take one of those extensions and punch those numbers in, whoever you speak to, probably not going to be the person that you want to speak to, and you're going to get switched around, or maybe you're going to get lost because they hit the wrong button and they didn't switch you to the department they thought they were going to switch you to. Now, if you were about this angry before, you're about this angry now. So by the time you call the switchboard again, you wait until it goes through that spiel again, until you hear mayor's office, and wham, you go right to the mayor's office and you say, listen, I got a problem and nobody's listening to me. That's where the position comes in.
Well, you like me, I skip it and I just press arrow.
Yeah, oh, okay. That's fair too.
Well, I think, if I may, just read, I think there are ways, I've been in that exact position more times than I care to remember. But I think that, again, it's just, I'm looking at this from all angles and whether it is actually necessary to create the position or if we can retrain, reposition, redo something without actually having to do that. So I'm sure in a situation like that where we would have to man the switchboard at all times or something, instead, if in the event that the position isn't created, then we might have to do something like that. So I thank you for bringing that up. I feel it, but again, it was just a thought process.
Okay. Yes.
Just a quick one. To get somebody to man that switchboard that knows this building and knows personnel and everything.
Okay, I don't want to
It's a
get
tough
too
situation.
bad off topic, too much off topic either. Yes, Mr. Churchill.
Thank you. Sure. No matter what the switchboard is trained to do, it doesn't matter. It's gonna end back in the mayor's office, even if it comes from a department head. So my question is, and I'm assuming we're correct, and the mayor's sitting here, but we're looking at more proficiency in answering questions, getting things done, and increasing the productivity. My question is, how much is lost now? I mean, there must have been an estimation of how much more we've improved.
I'm sure there are some things that have slipped through the cracks more often than not.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes an answer is given, probably not promptly. So though you might measure an answer being done, completed, but maybe it shouldn't have been done in the amount of time it should have been completed. So that's what, one of my concerns is the prompt follow-up and prompt coordination. And even though it might take, it could be taking longer, I think this would more streamline it.
I'm not saying that having another person is gonna make it perfect, but it might
No.
make it make it more efficient at not being perfect
True.
and get more stuff done. So we're looking at improving the productivity. I'm assuming that's the whole
Yes.
case.
Absolutely.
No matter what the switchboard is, if it gets messed up, it's gonna go back to the mayor's office from a department head.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. I would like to call for an adjournment at 7:01 PM.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, we are adjourned.
We have to help Frank out of the office.
I know, do we have to pick them up?
Fireman's carry.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, we got another one tonight.
Bring the chair up, Amy, we will.
Richard, did you get those budgets, those revolving accounts? I thought they were forwarded. You had asked for them, they were last week.
I got
Yes, you did.
the the building permit report, it was incorrect,
And then he corrected.
and then he corrected it, I haven't had a chance to look at that, it's the only spreadsheet I remember getting.
Okay, the next day was revolving accounts code 15, what we have right now, and the projected one's going to 16.
Was that a spreadsheet?
It was from Barry's office. I haven't opened it, honestly. But
Yes, yes, it
Was this Rich?
yes, it was.
stand, you join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just at this time, anybody that has an electronic device or a phone, if you please shut them off because it does interfere with our broadcast. Thank you very much. Approval of the minutes. Approval of the records of May 5th.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Approval of the records of May 12th.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. At this time, I was going to suspend the rules this evening due to a presentation that we're going to do in a few minutes. Any questions? This requires a roll call vote? No?
Yes.
Yes. Starting with
Second? Second for...
second.
Okay, sure.
This starts with
Mr.
Councilor
Dunley.
Bentley, please.
Mr. Dunley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Cook is here.
And Mr. Cook?
Yes.
At this
10
time,
yeas, no nays.
At this time, I turn it over to Council President Frank Cook, and our sympathies go out to him. I think he's going to manage those crutches very well in about 3 weeks.
Thank you, Vice President Blair, for getting these going tonight, and I decided it was a lot easier to stand here to start the meeting than try to go back and forth in a matter of a couple of minutes. But the reason we suspended the rules this evening, and I'm very glad to see so many veterans here this evening, is it's kind of a bittersweet moment when we are saying goodbye to Carl Bradshaw, our veterans agent, who has served the city of Attleboro and the veterans so nobly over the last 5+ years. So this evening, what we're going to be doing is both the mayor and myself, on behalf of the municipal council, would just like to take a few moments to thank Carl and to recognize him for his service. Carl, I have enjoyed getting to know you, and I've always enjoyed coming up and being able to talk to you about history and military history, two of my favorite areas. And I can honestly say that whenever I needed to talk to Mr. Bradshaw on any matter, there was never a problem. He was always willing, able. Sometimes I would drop in unannounced, and he would make the time to talk to me. And he's been providing a lot of guidance on a project we'll be hearing more about in coming weeks. So, Carl, I do want to thank you for your friendship and for all your work. On behalf of the veterans and on behalf of the City Council, I have a resolution to present. Municipal Council Resolution of Appreciation for Carl Bradshaw, Veterans Agent. On behalf of the Attleboro Municipal Council and the residents of the City of Attleboro, please accept our heartfelt appreciation for your dedicated service to the City of Attleboro. For 5 years, you have faithfully served as the City of Attleboro's Veterans Agent. Your years of service are noteworthy for the dignity, respect, and honor which so notably characterized the way you performed your multiple duties. Once again, thank you for your dedicated professionalism and strong commitment to the servicemen and women and the veterans in our city. The Attleboro Municipal Council congratulates you on your new position and further wishes you great happiness and health in all of your future endeavors. And that is signed on behalf of the Municipal Council and sealed the 2nd day of June, the year 2015, by myself, Frank Cook, the Council President. So, Carl, thank you so much. I know there are a number of veterans that are here tonight, and I'm sure they all have their own personal memories and their accounts of the service that you provided. I thought that at the Memorial Day service last Monday, when Colonel Hall gave us a very heartfelt presentation, I thought that, as I sat there and stood there and heard that, I thought that in many cases that story could have been repeated so many times over for all the work that you've done. So thank you. Mr. Mayor, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well,
Bust it out.
you don't need any other bones broken. So the certificate of recognition for you, Carl Bradshaw, for your 5.5 years of service. And whereas Carl Bradshaw has served as the Director of Veteran Services for the past 5.5 years for the City of Attleboro. And whereas Carl Bradshaw, in his role as Veterans Agent, has assisted veterans with employment assistance and counseling, as well as being instrumental in the organization and success of the city's parades and other special events. And whereas Carl Bradshaw is a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel who served 20 years of active duty and received 30 decorations, medals, including a Bronze Star. And now, therefore, I, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor of the City of Attleboro, do hereby join the citizens of Attleboro in recognizing your contribution and wish you very well in your new veteran service position in Northbridge. Signed and sealed this day of May in the year 2015, this day of June, by myself, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor. Congratulations, Carl. Thank you.
I'm not going to break down and cry, not tonight. No, but thank you, President Cook and Mayor Dumas, for this honor, and the council. I had no idea when I joined the military at 17 that I would be back here some 34 years later getting such an honor. And it has been such an honor and privilege serving these veterans you see out here and many more. And I'm really touched that you guys took the time to be here today and see family here and friends and veterans. It's just amazing. And, you know, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. The city of Attleboro is the greatest city in this Commonwealth. And nobody has challenged me on that yet, so it must be true. I don't know if it's because I'm a big guy, I don't. But I'm about to go work for 4 of the greatest towns in the Commonwealth and do the same sort of job. And all I'm asking of you is to continue to support the new VSO, because if you give that person the same support you gave me, then our veterans will get the care and assistance they so well deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl, for thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
What's your leg on that, Carl?
Did a fine job for 5.5 years. We're lucky to have you, and it's a pleasure working with you in that South Attleboro Pavilion. It wouldn't have happened without you. Good for you.
Sir.
Sergeant.
Thank you, Carl.
We certainly thank Carl's family and our veterans who came out for Carl tonight, and certainly for Connie, who worked so closely with him upstairs in the office, and all of the volunteers who Carl has brought on as ambassadors to the office every single day, and those people who drive the veterans van to all of our veterans throughout the city of Attleboro. Does anyone else have any words, well wishes for Carl that'd like to come up and say something at this time? All right, Carl. Godspeed, Carl. Thank you so much. Wish you the best.
Thank you.
Heather?
I certainly, I'll think about it.
No, it's, hey. No.
As far as it'll go in.
Mine comes away. Good to hear that.
Yeah.
You're looking dapper.
Wait, thank you.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. Purple's in.
Counselor Wade,
How are you?
I'm just delightful. How are you?
I
Excellent.
feel so small next to you, Mr. Cook.
I don't mind.
Because I have flats on too, so.
I'm not sure how long I'm gonna last. Let's see.
Keep it short. I can't wait.
So I'm gonna try it again. At this point. All right, let's just see where we are. I would ask the members of the planning board if they would please come forward. Our next item on the agenda is the joint public hearing. And in a moment, I will have our acting, or the assistant city clerk, Sharon Revine. I want to thank her for joining us this evening. And I'm going to be having her read the notice for the meeting. I do want to thank the planning board members for coming this evening, and also for your participation and attendance when we were recognizing Carl Bradshaw. I very much appreciate that. So you do have a quorum, right?
Yes.
All right. Good. Very good. And in terms of the chair, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so this time I will ask Mr. Ravad to read the notice of the joint public hearing, please.
Joint public hearing relative to amending certain sections pertaining to the floodplain district of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro, especially section 17-12.1, general relative to map panel numbers and a date, section 17-12.2, definitions, mean, seal, level, and floodway, and section 17-12.6.3, A3A special permits by deleting the reference to 120G of the State Building Code 780 CMR.
Thank you. On this joint public hearing, I'll first ask those who are in favor to speak, then those who are in opposition, and then those that are neither for nor against. I would ask for the speakers to come to the podium to give your name and address clearly so that we may have that for our record, and that any of the comments that you make, please direct to the planning board and the council as a collected entity rather than any one particular member of either board. So at this time, I would ask if there is anyone here to speak in favor of this item.
Good evening, Council President, members of the Municipal Council, Planning Board Chairman, and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Gary Rajan. I'm the city's Director of Planning and Development, and I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance. Before I begin, there's a handout that I already distributed on the table on your desk. There are 7 amendments altogether. What I also did is I took the liberty of taking those amendments and incorporating them onto the second handout, which is in color. That shows you all the deletions and the insertions, so you could follow precisely where these amendments would occur. I also want to stress that these proposed amendments are all mandated by FEMA. And to the best of my opinion, I would submit that these are all housekeeping matters, but I do want to stress that these are all by FEMA. I also want to state that these amendments need to be adopted by the council, well, recommended by the planning board, and adopted by the council by mid-July, so that we don't have any issues with suspension of flood insurance for any residents. So the deadline is July 16th. I wanted to get these to the council as quickly as possible, so that's why we're here in early June. So as long as you vote these in June, we should be all set. So with that said, let me walk you through each one of these changes. Again, if you ask me, I think they're softball matters, and they're all housekeeping. The first one is to amend subsection 17-12.1 general by deleting those panel numbers that I've written. If you recall, back in July of 2009, we updated the ordinance at that time as requirements of FEMA. Since that time, they've changed the maps again. So the map references under number 1 would all be deletions. The second item is to amend subsection 17-12.1 general. That would include inserting these new panel numbers. Okay, so the first one is to delete. The second one is to amend, is to insert. Just so the council and the planning board are aware, we have in the planning department all of these panels. We have all the new panels. What we don't have, and I don't believe any community of the Commonwealth yet has, we don't have the electronic version of these, but we do have the actual maps. Third is, again, to amend subsection 17-12.1 general by deleting in two references, the date to July 7th, 2009, and to insert in place thereof, the new date, July 16th, 2015. July 16th, 2015 would be the new effective date of these panels. The fourth is to amend the definition of floodway in subsection 17-12.2 definitions by deleting flood boundary and floodway maps and inserting in place thereof flood insurance rate maps. Just so that the council and the planning board are aware, there is no such thing any longer of a flood boundary and floodway maps. The new ones are called firm, and again, it's called the flood insurance rate map. The fifth would be to amend the definition of mean sea level contained in subsection 17-12.2 by deleting National Geodetic Vertical Datum, NGVD of 1929, and inserting in place thereof North American Vertical Datum, NAVD of 1988. It's a new benchmark. So our benchmark was, or is right now, NGVD of 1929. We would change that benchmark to NAVD of 1988. The next is to amend subsection 17-12.63A3A special permits by deleting the reference to 120G of the State Building Code 780 CMR. 780 CMR 120G right now is a correct reference. It specifically references floodplain, so there isn't anything mechanically wrong with it. However, since the time we had amended or adopted this ordinance, there are other sections of 780 CMR that contain construction codes for floodplain. So the question was, why do we specifically identify 120G? The recommendation was to delete 120.G, so this way the entire 780 CMR references floodplain everywhere. So it would just be to specifically delete the 120.G, and then that way the entire building code, wherever floodplain construction exists, would apply. So again, I just want to emphasize there isn't anything wrong with the way it's written right now, but for some reason it draws your attention to 120G, which is fine, but other sections of the building code also apply to floodplain. So rather than calling this one subsection out, it would be logical just to delete it. And the seventh amendment, again, is subsection 17-1211 amendment by deleting, again, floodway boundary and floodway maps, FBFM, which I stated earlier, there's no such animal anymore, it doesn't exist. Those are the 7 amendments. They're all housekeeping. These are all required by fee.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Questions?
Any questions for Mr. Rajian? Councilor Churchill, Charles Conti, and then Mr. Denese, as the order, I saw the hands come up. So Councilor Churchill?
Hi, Gary. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Question for someone that may be listening. If I'm in a floodplain now and I'm exempt from it because of the new plots, or vice versa, that affects my insurance premium.
I'm not sure, is that a question or?
I'm concerned that if I'm in a floodplain,
It's a
you're talking
structure.
about the residents and insurance.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not the property, it's a structure. The structure has to
if
be in
the
the floodplain.
structure's in a floodplain.
Correct.
It's deleted from a floodplain, it would affect my insurance.
Yeah, you wouldn't need it any longer.
So that's the same, are there any city properties that are not gonna be in a floodplain or are gonna be in a floodplain?
I don't know the answer to that question. The only way for me to determine
Just to look at the
is
plot.
to look at every single property, so I wouldn't know that.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councilor Conti?
Yes, Mr. Ration, basically, FEMA's saying to the city of Attleboro, you need to change your maps. We really don't have any say in whether or not we comply or not comply with the order. You have the order to delete these maps and add these maps.
Correct.
And change the language so that it's incongruent to what the new standard is at FEMA.
Clean up the language.
I got that.
That's right.
In the changing of the mean sea level from the NGVD to the NAVD, did we actually change our elevation?
No, it's a benchmark. That's a benchmark.
Did we change our benchmark?
What do you mean, did we change our benchmark?
Attleboro is still so many feet above sea
That's right.
level.
That's right.
So what actually changed there? What is the benchmark? I don't understand what changed, other than the name.
Well, the National Geodetic Vertical Datum is a different benchmark than the North American Vertical Datum. It's just a different benchmark. So if the NGVD of 1929 has all it is a reference point. It's like no different than the spindle on top of a fire hydrant that we use because it's a known reference point. That's a known reference point. And FEMA said we no longer want to use that because it's archaic. All the new computer systems, all the new technology we have uses the NAVD, the North American Vertical Datum, as the new benchmark. And again, it's not that new, it's 1988. So it's just a matter of changing it. So whether or not the current one we have in the book right now just has a reference benchmark of 69, well, that's a little high. I don't know, 14.5. It's an elevation, it's a benchmark. The new one just says whatever new benchmark this is, it could be 16.2, it could be 134.5, it could be whatever it is. It's just a new reference from which one would calculate mathematically an elevation of floodplain.
Okay.
It's a new reference. So rather than a benchmark, let's just call it a new reference point.
My second question, if I may.
Council, if I may, it's just when you do a triangulation in survey, you need a benchmark, you need a reference point.
Yeah, the point is that the old high school on County Street is 868 feet above sea level. It's still 868 feet above sea level.
Yeah, regardless of whatever reference benchmark you use, they want us to use this new benchmark.
Right. So it's just.
Yeah, we're not
bureaucratic
sinking or
change.
anything.
Right,
All right.
right. On item 2, inserting the new map panel numbers.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me an idea of where these are?
I can, if you want to, sure, if you want by your next meeting, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, I think the ward councils would certainly like
Sure.
to know if it's affecting their ward. And I do know that, only because of the business that I'm in, that this is a very serious situation for residential homeowners. That if you want to opt out of the flood insurance, it's an expensive survey through a
Absolutely is.
registered engineer. And there's a lot of people in the city who have been thrown into a flood map panel by association, and that, you know, they might live on top of a hill, but they're still in the flood map plane, and they're still gonna get they're still gonna be liable for flood insurance unless they get the survey exemption.
Yeah, you have to file what's called a LOMA, LOMA, letter of map amendment.
And
it does
nobody anywhere in our entire system, federal government or local government, tell these people that they are now in a new floodplain area.
Well, going back to what Councilor Churchill asked, there are going to be some people, because floodplains do change over time, they morph. The more you fill, there's compensatory storage. Over time, it's like a wetland. Floodways and floodplains change over time. They're not static. They're not perpetually static. So there are going to be instances when there are going to be new properties or structures, I should say, are going to be in it. There are going to be others where if there's been a recession on the property, on the floodway, as the floodway recedes, as does the floodplain, there'll be people who might not need it any longer. So I'm hard pressed to think, however, that there are going to be too many instances where the maps are wrong. It's a lot more sophisticated, as you can imagine, with computer technologies of how these maps have been prepared. If you recall, if you look back at the ones we have right now, one was from 1979, and the only one after that, from 2009, when we amended the ordinance back in 2009, the one immediately before 2009, if you recall, were dated 1981. There were 2 panels. And often, before the zoning board, engineers argued that the map is incorrect, and they would go by mathematical calculations, which now goes back to the datum, if you may. These maps are far more sophisticated. There are probably, off the top of my head, I'm going to say about 35 panels as opposed to just 2. So that's why, Council, when you ask Gary, where are these? I didn't come prepared. I didn't think that's a good question. I didn't come prepared because there could be n number of questions. I don't know which one to prepare for. So part of the public hearing process, if you need to get your questions, I'll be more than happy to come at your next meeting, next Tuesday, the Tuesday after, and I will circle on the composite plan referencing each one of these panels with the insertions, and if you like, I can do another one that shows you which ones are coming off, if you like.
Yes.
How's that? So I can do that next week.
Because it adds to the transparency of the federal government mandate that we make this change. So I'd like an opportunity for the public, in a public setting, to see that something has happened to their neighborhood. And if they miss it, well, they miss it, but at least we made an effort to make it public.
I'll be happy to point those out to you next week.
Thank you. The other thing was, are there additional changes that came into the, and I'm sorry to go on, Mr. President, but it's a related question. Additional changes that came into the city of Attleboro as a result of this new floodplain district, and by example, Mechanics Pond is no longer Mechanics Pond, it's now Mechanics River. Was there other classifications or standards that changed besides just the map?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
I want to stress, not that I'm aware of. I'd like to think I've got my pulse on that, okay? But I've not heard of that. I can ask the conservation
It's
agent
okay,
tomorrow.
if you don't know, you can't tell me, so that's fine.
No, the fact is, there could be changes that I'm not aware of. That's what I'm saying. It'd be highly unlikely that I'm not aware of it, but it's the possibility there. It sure can.
And I
I
agree
could
with
check
you.
into that, and I can report that again next week, so I'll ask.
It's highly likely that you're not aware of it.
Hope not, but I'll check with the agent tomorrow, sir.
Thank you, Gary.
Chairman Denisi and then Councilor Cooper.
Just one question, Gary. The deleted map panel numbers are revision F, with the new map numbers are revision G, but 117F dropped. I don't know if that was just an error. It probably likely still is a 117G that we just didn't list on number 2.
I'm not following you.
If
I have
you go
one
through, like 108F is not 108G, 111F is 111G, so forth and so on. We get to 117F, there is not a 117G, so I don't know if that just got dropped off.
No?
You might want to just double check, because as I recall, looking at it, these are the panels just got updated to the new revision, so I don't think we dropped any panels in the city, so, so I don't think 117 disappeared. We probably might just have skipped it.
I'll tell you what, I checked, I double-checked, I triple-checked, and I counted all the panel numbers.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, I'll admit it, and I'll change it, but I think this is 100% accurate, but I will check.
Okay.
You all set, Chairman? You all set, Chairman?
Are you okay?
Yeah,
You all
thank you.
set? Okay, thank you. Councilor Cooper and then Ms. Hall. Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. I think what Rick was looking for, and just, I don't want you to go do it and then we come back and ask you a question about it. You're gonna look at any areas where there was some variation from the previous panels to the existing panels, is that?
That's not what I was gonna do.
Okay,
All I'm
so,
gonna do is point out where those panels are located, not to compare and contrast, correct?
The ones that are dropping off and the ones that are being
Right,
added.
just geographically their location, not
Oh, I see.
comparing and contrasting the substance in that.
Correct.
Correct.
okay.
You all set?
Yeah.
Thank you. Ms. Hall?
Yes, I have a couple of things. So, Gary, you may not be able to answer this or not, but I'll throw it out to you. I think it came from a question over here. So these things get published, and they get published on the federal level also. So I'm assuming that the way that a person, a homeowner, finds out about a change is the next time that homeowner goes to get insurance, or the insurance companies are probably notified of any changes. Are you aware of how that happens? I mean, it gets published. Is there some communication then with the insurance companies? There's got to be.
Yeah, there is. To be honest, again, what the complete process is as a result of these, how homeowners get notified, I don't know, to be honest with you.
Okay, that's one. And then just one correction we're looking at is here on Amendment 3, you have July 16th, 2015, but if you move over to the plan, you have July 26th.
Should be the 16th.
Gotcha, okay.
This handout is correct. The handout's correct. And fortunately, this is just the draft, and it should be the 16th. Good catch, thank you.
You all set? Thank you. Mr.
All
Thibble?
set. I thought I was gonna-
Oh, you're all right. Thank you. Are there any
Actually,
other-
both places.
Both
Yep.
locations.
So the 16th is correct, is a correct.
July 16th is the effective date, that I know 100%.
Are there any other questions at this time from consideration? From anybody? Anything else, Gary? You all set?
No, so I would respectfully ask the city council to continue the hearing, despite whoever else might speak, so I can come back next week. Do you want me here next week to present that information?
Let me check with Councilor.
If we continue the hearing, we're getting really close to passing it beyond the date in July.
Right.
So what I would recommend, I know if during council we ask a city representative to come back, that's allowed.
Right.
So I would invite you to my committee meeting on June 9th.
Okay.
And then I would ask, the planning board can watch that, of course, just like how the public can. Then I would expect to get, and then you can ask, Mr. Conti can ask all the questions, we can have dialogue. I'd expect to get a recommendation from the planning board back on June 16th, probably, through President Cook and his communications. And then luckily for us, we have a special meeting on June 23rd. So I would intend to take both the committee vote and the full council vote on the date of June 23rd.
Excellent.
Yes.
Right, and that's also similar to a discussion I had with Mr. Rajan earlier this evening. He was reminding me of the need to have this voted before July, because after the 23rd of June, we're not meeting again until after this deadline. So that, that would be the importance of getting it done. And again, I know that there might be other, for Mr. Rajan speaking right now, I know there's probably at least one other person speaking. I might ask Mr. Rajan to come back up later this evening in case there are some additional questions that result from the next presentation, which is going to be coming up, not presentation, but, the next speaker. Just while we're all here, so we can get that information. But my inclination is, and I will defer to the chair of the ordinance committee and also the chair of the planning board in terms of closing this particular hearing. Again, given the time constraints and the fact that we need to get something back before we can make a recommendation or take a vote on it. And again, I know we're somewhat of a tight time frame, but again, I will hold that off until we finish the public hearing and have a chance to get feedback from both boards, okay?
Okay.
So, Mr. Wright, thank you. Just stand by, I may have you come back up.
Sure.
Okay? And, yes, thank you, Ms. Ruth. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Thought there was. Dr. Quinn, did you want to speak on this issue?
No, sir.
Okay, as I saw you moving towards the podium, I thought you were. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Can't see anybody back. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Is there anyone here to speak neither for nor against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Hearing none. Again, I'll go back to the two chairs, Mr. Denisi and Mr. Denley. Do you see any need to continue this public hearing, or do you want to proceed with what you just mentioned?
Yes, I would like to invite Mr. Rajan back on June 9th and then close the hearing tonight.
Okay, is that agreeable to you?
We'll close the hearing.
Okay, very good, thank you. So again, based on the testimony presented and the recommendations of both the chairman of the planning board, Mr. Denisi, and the chair of the ordinance committee, Councilor Denley, I'm going to declare that public hearing closed, and then we'll be waiting for a recommendation from the planning board so that we can subsequently make our vote. At this point, I have called for a special meeting on June 23rd of the council to wrap up any matters. So that'll be the night we'll be looking to vote on this particular item. Mr. Denisi, is your board meeting again?
Ninth.
Going to another room tonight?
No, we're finished. No further business
Okay.
tonight. Our next meeting is the 8th.
Okay. I do want to thank you all for coming out this evening. And if you were going to be continuing to another room, I just wanted to make that announcement. So thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate it very much, and for your patience. Take care. Mr. Rajan? Mr. Rajan? Yes. Do you have a copy of that handout? I did not receive one. It wasn't there, so unless it got moved. But it's all right. At some point, you just put it in my mailbox. Just leave it, Linda. That'd be fine. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're good to go. So that wraps up our joint public hearings for this evening. The next item is a public hearing, and I would ask Ms. Ravad to read the notice for that meeting, please.
Public hearing relative inserting a new section, section 11-18, nicotine delivery products of the revised ordinances of the city of Attleboro.
Thank you. At this time, I would ask if there's anyone here to speak in favor of this item to please come forward. Anyone to speak in favor? Yeah, but I'm not sure if Kyle's come first. I do know a couple of people. Again, if we can just have your name and address for the record, please.
What's that?
Can you just have your name and address for the record?
Yes,
Please.
Christopher Quinn, 77 Park Street, 211 Park Street. Okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Pardon?
Thank you for coming in.
Sure, thanks for having me. Just a few points I want to speak in favor of this proposed ordinance. Research on tobacco products shows that vast majority of use begins before the age of 21. Further, it is known that the brain is especially susceptible to nicotine addiction in the teen years. Quitting tobacco and nicotine addiction is hard, so the push should be to delay the start of this behavior. Experimentation with and current use of e-cigarettes has risen sharply among youth and adults in the U.S., and among youth, it's tripled in the last 1 year. As of the end of 2014, 40 states prohibited the sale to minors of electronic nicotine delivery systems, including e-cigarettes, vape pens, meaning vaporized pens, and other battery-powered devices capable of delivering aerosolized nicotine and additives to the user. 16 million children aged under 18 years of age can still legally purchase electronic nicotine delivery products in the remaining 10 states and the District of Columbia. So with that in mind, this proposed ordinance is one step in the direction to delay the onset of potential nicotine addiction and hopefully prevent its use altogether. Therefore, the health department here in the city would support this ordinance.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Quinn at this point? Okay. So Dr. Quinn, I would ask that the remarks that you read, if you give to Linda, or if you send them to her electronically so we can include those in the minutes, that would be great. Okay. Thank you for coming in. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor?
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for coming in.
My name is Kyle Egney, Chief of Police, City of Attleboro, and for this honorable body to speak in favor of this ordinance as proposed.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add at this point, or do you just want to take questions?
No, I just want to add this is it's for a vulnerable population under 18, and it's unregulated right now, and I think it is a proactive approach. I'm glad it's being introduced. I'm glad it's being debated, and hopefully it will pass.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the chief? Councilor Churchill.
Hi, Chief.
Hi, Chief.
I think because they can get the nicotine fake cigarettes, kids are doing it rather than getting the real cigarettes, right?
Yes, two things. Marketing, the way it's marketed towards...
The reverse side of that question is, do you think, and it has no bearing on I support the bill, you think it'll drive the kids to trying to get the other kind of cigarettes if they're not available, because they're still going to be chasing it? Makes it a little more difficult, but...
It makes it more difficult, and it makes over-the-counter sales obviously prohibitive. As we all know, that there's ways to get it illegally. However, if we can prevent them from buying it over the counter, it's one step in the right direction than right now, where it's unregulated. And we're talking about, as I said earlier, a vulnerable population that lacks maturity to make these important decisions about their health. When they reach 18 and adulthood, then they can take that fork on the road in which direction they want to go. But right now, it's dangerous, it's unregulated, and I'm glad we're plugging this loophole. But,
thank you.
And I just want to add, if you've seen these, they are geared, they're marketed to the youth in a certain way to make it more inviting, which I think is very disappointing and disgusting.
I spend a lot of time at the high school in the weight room, but as I'm walking out and I see a lot of kids, not a lot, but I'm surprised at how many are smoking the non-cigarette cigarettes. And it's for the nicotine, obviously, right?
Correct.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you. Councilor Higney.
Thank you, Chief. I'm not that familiar. Is it the vapor ones, or I'm
Yes.
okay? Because
There's nicotine in the device.
Okay, so kind of like when they were going against the camel for the,
Possess, they can't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other
I
questions
think
from,
parenting skills should come into play there, but I could
Are there any other
bore this
questions?
council for 2 hours on parenting skills and what the lack of that we see sometimes.
thank you. Are there any other questions for the chief? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor?
Mr. President, Mayor Dumas, just like to come and speak in favor of the proposed ordinance dealing with this issue. Ironically, I was at a conference late last week, and this is one of the topics that ended up coming up as a matter of what we were discussing as a group of mayors in San Diego, and we actually had representatives from the cigarette industry who were present at the conference, and they were talking about how they actually support regulations on these type of e-cigarettes and the vapors, because right now, since the federal government hasn't taken any stance and the state government hasn't taken any stance, we are finding that many municipalities are doing this in order to make sure the regulations are in place. They'll eventually catch up with us, but just as we did things with the bath salts, I think that's also very important as it relates to this issue. People don't think of it as the same, but it's still the same addictive nicotine that's in the vapor that's actually in the cigarettes as well, and it's the same habit-forming things that happen with the use of those materials. So I think it's a great idea. Councilor Denley had brought it to my attention, as well as Dr. Quinn from the Health Department and to Police Chief, and we're all on board with the legislation, and we'd like to continue to work with you through that process.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the mayor on this matter?
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Anyone to speak in opposition? Is there anyone here to speak neither for nor against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Hearing none, Councilor Denley, do you see any need to have this public hearing continued open?
I do not.
Okay.
I plan to take it up in committee June 9th and from full council June 16th. And it was amended so that it takes effect upon passage.
Okay.
So hopefully as of June 16th, we will have laws in this city preventing the sale of nicotine-laden products to minors.
Okay, thank you. So based on the testimony presented this evening and the recommendation of the chair of the ordinance committee, Councilor Denley, I'm going to declare that public hearing closed. That concludes all of our public hearings for this evening. So thank you very much for your participation in the process. Okay. This time we're going to go on to a reading of the mayor's communication. No, if it's too high, I can't. What do you want? Like this?
All right. We'll have them adjust the cameras.
You sleep?
Yeah, I might fall asleep.
Yeah.
That was too bad, but thank you.
You would know.
Hold on a second, just to grab the mayor's communication.
June 2nd, 2015. Dear municipal councilors, as you recall, at your meeting on May 19th, 2015, a request to appropriate $100,000 of the total $200,000 that the Board of Assessors released from the allowance of abatement for FY 2005 and FY 2006 was made to support the FY 2016 budget. This left $100,000 that remained and appropriated as of May 19th, 2015. Therefore, you were advised that a request to appropriate this remaining $100,000 would be forthcoming, as well as an additional release of overlay to satisfy old abatement matters. Since that time, and in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 25, the Attleboro Board of Assessors did in fact release $100,000 from the FY 2004 allowance for abatement account. Please find the enclosed vote of the Board of Assessors releasing $100,000 of available surplus overlay to the city for any lawful purpose. Thus, this now leaves a total balance to be appropriated in the amount of $200,000 to be used for any lawful purpose. Therefore, I respectfully submit a communication from City Auditor Deborah Gould, City Collector Deborah McCutcheon, and Chief City Assessor Stanley Maswitz regarding deficit and surplus amounts needed in overlay accounts from previous years in regards to abating personal property taxes that are uncollectible. You will find the required communication from the Board of Assessors certifying the available overlay surplus for any lawful purpose, and hereby request your honorable body to appropriate $200,000 from fund balance overlay surplus to accounts as follows. $4.26 to allowance for abatement 1986, $4.46 to allowance for abatement 1987, $4.70 to allowance for abatement 1988, $4.78 allowance for abatement 1989, $8.76 to allowance for abatement 1990, $8.96 to allowance for abatement 1991, $18,520.42 to allowance for abatement 1993, $6.30 to allowance for abatement 1994, $28,859 to allowance for abatement 1995, $28,805.28 to allowance for abatement 1996, $3,268.50 to allowance for abatement 2002, $30,000 to allowance for abatement 2008, $51,118.57 to allowance for abatement 2009, $25,000 to assessors legal services, $14,386.01 to citywide reserve fund for transfer. And copies are in your packets.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
As you may recall, in March 2014, the Commonwealth's Gateway City Parks Program awarded the city a $300,000 grant to develop a greenway/blueway pedestrian connector between Riverfront Drive Park and the Balfour River Walk from County Street by way of the 10 Mile River to Wall Street. I am pleased to inform you that the Commonwealth's Gateway City Parks Program awarded the city an additional $200,000 grant towards this project for the acquisition of map 32, lot 55B, and map 32, lot 55C, which is land under agreement between the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority and Orville B. Richardson. These funds will be used to match other funds along with the assistance of the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority to purchase this last parcel of land on the Intermodal Transportation Center, ITC site. The city will utilize its current MassWorks grant to demolish the 2 existing buildings in addition to the DPW Highway Division buildings later this year, and will further extend plans for the new Riverfront Park out from its current endpoint to Olive Street. The subject property, along with the property where Riverfront Park and Riverfront Drive will be situated, will be conveyed to the city of Attleboro once the project is complete. This land transaction must be completed by June 30th, 2015 in order to satisfy the grant, as these remaining state dollars must be expended by this time period. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to approve expending of such funds and any future grant amendments by the Attleboro Planning and Development Department. Copies are in your packet. In accordance with Article 2, Section 2-9B of the City Charter of the City of Attleboro, I respectfully request your honorable body to consider this as an emergency measure.
Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Legal Secretary Allison Wood regarding surplus items that the Water Department would like to declare surplus, and hereby respectfully request your honorable body to declare the following as surplus and available for disposition. Copies are in your packet. We have 200 water meters in used condition.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully request your honorable body to accept the generous donation of a veteran's flag from the family of the late Russell E. Marchand to the city in accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packet.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Acting Superintendent of Water and Superintendent of Wastewater Paul Kennedy regarding the appropriation of funds needed for capital improvement projects in both enterprise funds. These funds need to be captured before the end of FY 2015 to allow for the design or construction of projects to begin before retained earnings are certified in the fall, as retained earnings lapse on June 30th. Please be aware that the following appropriations are approximate costs and may need adjustments for final bids and will be made in the future. Therefore, I respectfully request your honorable body to appropriate $325,000 from Wastewater Enterprise Fund retained earnings to the following. $1,000 to Fund Number 3217, construction of the wastewater plant's diffused air system. In addition to $153,000 from Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings to Fund 3318, designed to rehabilitate the Oak Hill water storage tank. Copies are in your packet.
Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, please.
Sincerely, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor.
Thank you. And the other communications?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Communications from the meeting of June 2nd, 2015. Public notice of environmental forum and plans for review of the Viridian Meadows, Slater Street, Attleboro, Mass. From Commonwealth Engineers, 400 Smith Street, Providence, Rhode Island, to Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, 100 Cambridge Street, Boston, Mass. File with the Office of the City Clerk.
Right. So if anybody wants to see that, this is just a notification, so it is with the City Clerk's office. Okay?
Communication from Attorney Edward Casey relative to Bishop Feen High School in Harvard Street.
Refer this to the Traffic Study Commission and a copy to all members, please.
Notice of a special meeting to be held on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015 at 7 p.m. to vote on an emergency measure for a new septic system at Briggs Corner Lander Fire Station and any other legal matters that may come before the council.
Copy to all members, and again, just for your own planning purposes. The 23rd, I anticipate being the last meeting of the fiscal year and the last meeting before we go into the summer schedule with a meeting on Tuesday, July 21st. So there may be other items that night in addition to this with final transfer of funds as we end the fiscal year and prepare for 16. So just ideally, that will be the last meeting of fiscal year 15. Thank you.
Application from Liquid Environmental Solutions for a new above-ground storage license for 2 above-ground 100,000-gallon methanol tanks and 1 above-ground 5,000-gallon windshield white fluid tank at 527 Pleasant Street, Attleboro, Mass.
That's a 10,000 gallon.
10,000.
Gallon, not 100,000.
10,000, yeah.
Sorry. Before you
That would
panic.
have been a lot, yeah.
Before you panic and say. I'm going to refer the matter to the License Committee, please, and Councilor Churchill, this matter requires a public hearing. Would you like to call for a public hearing on Tuesday, July 21st?
Yes, sir.
2015. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you for the second. The motion is in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. That hearing will be on the 21st. Thank you.
Communication from Mona Bukapier from Best Buy Automotive, Inc., 931 Washington Street, Attleboro, Mass., stating that she will be closing her business on May 22nd, 2015.
License Committee, please.
Application for a 2015 new Hackney carriage driver's license from Donald Porter Blair, 1340 County Street, number 49, Attleboro, Mass.
License Committee, please.
Application for a 2015 renewal Hackney carriage driver's license from Albert H. Bromley, 39 South Avenue, Attleboro, Mass.
License Committee, please.
Application for a 2015 new hawkers and peddlers license from Jason St. Jean, 7 Washington Drive, Johnston, Rhode Island.
License Committee, please.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. I would, at this time, entertain a motion to go into the Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. We're now in the Committee of the Whole. If there's anyone who has business bring the attention of the City Council, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to arise.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, buddy, need to take a recess to get some of these signed.
stamp you so you can go home.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, it just goes into
Thank you. Let me just make sure I have all of them. And then we can go on to the committee reports.
Does Council Rika have anything? That the
I
number
think
two
I
maybe?
already have hers.
She doesn't,
Yeah, I
who's the
believe
number
that,
two on that
I
committee?
believe that she already gave me hers before she was, I have hers.
Correct, but who's the number two?
Number 2, in case she doesn't make that.
Wait a minute.
Jonathan, I believe.
No, it's actually you.
Right.
Council Blair.
Right.
It's Peter?
There's a quiz. Hold on.
And then if she comes
Yeah,
back.
you're the number two, because she's not back yet. There was a quiz. All right, hold on just a second. Just make sure I have all my motions down here. There. Let's see. Mr. Thibodeau and Mr. Cooper, you didn't have anything, correct?
I did not.
Okay, I didn't think so. Outside of new business.
Yeah.
Outside of the new business, better for committee. Okay. All right. Mr. Vadi, you ready to go? Mr. Vadi, you all set?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to proceed with the committee reports. We'll begin with Councilor Denley, please.
Thank you, President Cook. Reporting for the Committee on Ordinances, Elections, and Legislative Matters. We have two motions tonight.
Okay.
For the docket of June 2nd, 2015, I move to adopt Chapter 10, Section 58 of the Acts of 2015 relative to the act that authorizes cities and towns to amortize their fiscal year 2015 snow and ice removal account deficits over the next 3 fiscal years in equal installments or more rapidly.
Second. Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
Yes, as we all know, it cost $1.5 million to clean up the snow just in the city of Attleboro for this previous winter. So if we were to take that budget hit, it would have a extreme impact on our budget. This way, rather than taking the entire $1.5 million hit, we can take $500,000 on each of 3 years. And I spoke to the mayor. It is not his intention to spread it out throughout all 3. For budgeting, that's what he intends to do. And then as we find free cash or more money throughout the year, he hopes to pay them down quicker. So this is a good budgeting measure, and this is something that the state enacted to allow us to kind of have a little breathing room so that we're not suffocated by the snow deficit removal.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, Council Conley, excuse me.
Yes, Mr. President, I will be voting no on this, and I'd like to explain the reason why. The state passed the measure for the cities and towns that are already in financial trouble to give them a safety valve for such a large expenditure. That's not Attleboro. Granted, the imposition of expending $1.5 million in the mayor's budget this year would be a significant issue to deal with. And my feeling is that that's what stabilization funds are for. It's an emergency when you have a blizzard like February. I feel more inclined to use the stabilization fund for that snow expense than I do for the lead removal of Finberg Field. This kicking the can down the road sets a dangerous precedent in that next winter could be just as bad as this winter. And this might be more palatable to me if I heard discussion about purchasing snow removal insurance, which is available to municipalities. But that has not been brought up or discussed, and I just don't think that I'm comfortable pushing such a big bill into future years. And I recognize, what Councilor Denley said, and I believe that the mayor would like to erase this $1.5 million obligation as quickly as possible. But I can't support the measure as it's written to stretch it out for 3 years, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Okay. Hearing none, we'll proceed with the vote. This will be a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Hegney?
No.
Okay, Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
No.
Mr. Conti?
No.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
7 yeas, 3 nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you, President Cook. From the docket of April 21st, 2015, I move in accordance with Chapter 40A, Section 5 of the Massachusetts General Laws to amend the following sections of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro. I'm just going to read the numbers that are amended.
Okay.
So 1, amend Section 17-3.4, Table of Use Regulations, wholesale, transportation, and industrial by inserting new land uses number 15 and 16. 2, amend Section 17-3.5, Table of Accessory Use Regulations by inserting new accessory uses number 28 and 29. 3, amend Section 17-11.2 definitions by inserting the following definitions alphabetically.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments? Thanks.
Yes, so we had a public hearing on this, and then it passed out of committee last week without discussion. Pretty much, the City of Attleboro currently does not differentiate very clearly the difference between a concrete plant and an asphalt plant. And if you vote in favor of this ordinance, you're in favor of voting for that clarified differentiation. If you are against it, you want it to stay how it is right now, which is ambiguous.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Councilor Churchill?
A lot. Several people have called me, and it's, they're confused either way. And I tried to explain to them that we're not supporting an asphalt plant by voting in this ordinance. We're just clarifying the definition of what it is. I just wanted to say that in public, because I've had several complaints about thinking that by passing this, we're allowing them to go to an asphalt.
Right. Good point. Yeah, and sometimes that does happen when we're passing an ordinance that is perhaps trying to regulate or prevent or better plan. Sometimes it can be interpreted that way.
As a follow-up, Mr. President,
Yes.
I don't know if my fellow colleagues here received email from certain people. And I know I answered several of them, but I just wanted to go public that we are not supporting an asphalt plant. We're defining exactly what it is.
Right, exactly. Okay. Okay, thank you. And there have been other ordinances along that line that we've done, and it's very common for people to actually make, wondering if our vote, if we're actually saying we're in support of it, it's just in terms of it's a planning tool. Councilor Hagden?
Thank you. I did get some, but after the public hearing's closed, we're not allowed to receive certain information on things. So I did get back to them as a ward counselor, but that was one thing distinguished after a public hearing's closed to go further to get more information, but I did reply as the ward counselor. But thank you.
Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote. It also requires a 2/3 vote for passage, as it does involve an amending of the section 17 of our ordinances. So this will be a roll call vote, and it will begin with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Heading?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes,
10 yeas.
the motion passes.
Thank you, President Cook. That's all the business that I have today. I'd like to call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time. I'd like to ask to be up high on the roster as I have Mr. Rajan coming in as a guest.
Okay. Okay, I'll make note of that. So Linda, if you make note of that, ordinance committee will be, first, does anybody have any guests coming in actually besides?
I'm just waiting for him to get back.
Okay. Do you have anybody coming in?
No, just a point of order. Mr. Rajan is still here, and I think he was waiting.
Yeah, I think he's in the talking island, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one motion from the docket of June 2nd, 2015. I move to approve the following applications for 2015 renewal Hackney carriage driver's license from Andrew James Madden, 216 Knight Avenue, Attleboro, Mass. And May Irene Fitton, 140 South Avenue, Attleboro, Mass.
Second. Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
These are two new applications. They've been, they have to be fingerprinted, and of course, they'll do a query check. And I'm checking with the police. I have no concerns at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's all I have from the licensing committee, and I call for a subcommittee meeting at the correct time.
Thank you. Council Conti.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee from the docket of June 16, 2015, I move to adopt the following emergency preamble. That the municipal council vote to take action as provided in the city charter, section 2-9B, regarding the emergency which currently exists, relative to the request of the mayor to allow the Planning and Development Department to expend approximately $200,000, and any further grant amendment from the Commonwealth's Gateway City Parks Program grant for the acquisition of map 32, lot 55B, and map 32, lot 55C, which is land under agreement here between the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority and Orville P. Richardson.
Second.
Due to the time constraints involved in the nature of this emergency, makes it necessary to take action without waiting the prescribed time as prescribed by the city charter.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments? This is again on adopting the emergency preamble. Any comments on adopting the emergency preamble? Ms. Conti.
Mr. President, I think I read in Friday's Banker and Tradesman that the city had made this purchase, so I would call that an absolute emergency. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Churchill.
I think that piece of property's been in contention for quite some time.
Yes, it has.
Is this by eminent domain, or is this an agreement?
No, this is a purchase.
Okay, I'll support it.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none. So this first vote will be on the emergency preamble. This will be a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Hegney, and it requires a 2/3 vote for passage.
Ms. Egney?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Donnelly?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes. So we're now on to the motion.
From the docket of June 16, 2015, I move to approve as an emergency measure in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinance of the City of Attleboro to approve the request of the mayor to allow the Planning and Development Department to expend approximately $200,000 and any further grant amendments from the Commonwealth's Gateway City Parks Program grant for the acquisition of map 32, lot 55B and map 32, lot 55C, which is land under agreement between the Attleboro Redevelopment Authority and Orville P. Richardson.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, Mr. President, I have no comments.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments, Councilor Cooper?
To Councilor Conti. Rick, did I hear you right that Banker and Tradesman said the transaction already happened?
Correct. I read it every day.
I understand.
But did it?
Yeah. It's records. So the sale's already recorded.
Correct.
How about that?
Things that make you go,
Right.
Yeah.
You
How does
can't
that-
do anything without money, right?
Right.
Well, I guess they did, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you all set? Okay, thank you. Councilor Blair.
Just in retrospect, I believe they had enough money in that account, ARA, their account, to do it. This probably is gonna replenish that, and that's where it was allocated. I would assume.
Councilor Cooper.
Thank you. If I,
Yes.
to Councilor Conti again.
Yes.
Rick, I believe you're the liaison to the ARA.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Could you just make sure that that's what happened?
Oh, I'm sure that's what happened.
No, I mean that they had their money and now they're
Just do that, yeah.
Couldn't have happened any other way.
By the way, the ALA meeting, which was supposed to be this coming Thursday, has been
Canceled.
canceled. It'll be on because he had trouble getting a quorum, so it'll be this coming Monday, the 8th.
Which I cannot attend because they meet at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll do my best to be there, Cook, if I can.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Higbee.
Along those same lines, so if we had said no, then what would have happened?
Well, the motion would not have passed, so
Right.
therefore we'd be back to square one. I'm sure it'd probably be resubmitted.
Maybe one of us would file for reconsideration.
Consider.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, I was just,
Yeah.
just food for thought.
If we've already spent it.
Right. Okay. Anything, I know there was some information that had been sent out a few days ago about this in preparation for tonight, so. I don't know if there's any other questions on this matter?
No.
Hearing none, this matter will require a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Mr. Cooper?
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes. Anything else, Councilor?
Mr. President, that is all the business that the Capital Improvements and Development Committee has to bring before the council this evening. We'd appreciate a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Very good, thank you. Councilor Wade?
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting from zoning and land use. We have no business this evening. However, we'd like to call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for budget and appropriations, I have a number of motions tonight. Just want to say that all the account numbers have been read in committee, so I can go through them as efficiently as possible. All of these are from the docket of June 2nd, 2015. I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $25,000 from undesignated fund balance free cash general government to the treasurer Medicare tax to cover the shortfall in the med tax account due to unexpected salary payment for snow, new hires, unexpected overtime, retro pay, and contractual raises.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Are there any comments,
We
please?
talked about it in committee. This is one of the, towards the end of the year, if there's any short accounts, we need to get them at this time. And this is, the treasurer has this shortfall in the Medicare tax account.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Higbee.
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Dunley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $30,000 from the undesignated fund balance free cash general government account to veterans benefit, veterans aid, due to a tremendous increase in requirements.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments?
Like we talked about last week, this goes to, there is a shortfall in our veterans aid account to get through the rest of the fiscal year. And remember that 75% is reimbursed in the following fiscal year. So we eventually do get it back. Mr. Conti had the amount of $582,000 coming back to us in this coming fiscal year from the previous fiscal year. So by having a veterans agent there, it definitely does benefit the city in financial ways as well as through the benefits of the veterans themselves.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Dinley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
10 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. Cook, the next motion has to do with the revolving funds. I'd like to be able to read the introduction and then the each account, each different revolving account, as I've read the individual pieces beyond that.
You read that in committee last week?
I did. Okay, so from the docket of June 2nd, 2015, I move to, under the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53, E and a half, as amended, to approve For fiscal year 2016, the reauthorization with continuing balances of the following departmental revolving funds in the amounts indicated and with conditions as specified. First one, animal shelter, expenditure limit $6,000, Fund 2615. Capron Park Zoo, expenditure limit $1,100,000, Fund 2607. City property, expenditure limit $50,000, Fund 2612. Council on Aging, expenditure limit $20,000, Fund 2606. Fire ambulances, expenditure limit $1,100,000, Fund 2610. Fire alarm systems, expenditure limit $40,000, Fund 2609. Health immunization, expenditure limit $10,000, Fund 2611. Parking administration, expenditure limit $250,000, Fund 2602. Police vehicles, expenditure limit $280,000, Fund 2601. Police false alarms, expenditure limit $50,000, Fund 2616. Police canine, expenditure limit $10,000, Fund 2617. Recreation, expenditure limit $175,000, Fund 2614. Special disposal, expenditure limit $700,000, Fund 2604. And protective inspection services, expenditure limit $65,000, Fund 2603.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
With the exception of the zoo account, which went from $900,000 to $1,100,000, all funds are at the same level as that they were last year. The requested information of both what came in for fiscal year 2015 as well as the projected budget for fiscal year 2016 was sent out. Was sent out the next day, and I appreciated that. With the realization that even with each of these revolving funds, there is a separate and distinct individual budget for each of those, what's expected to come in and what's got to go out for them. So all of these are sub-budgets within the major budget that we vote in a few weeks.
Thank you. Councilor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, the week before, I'm sorry, I committed to Councilor Conti and Kirby to speak to the police chief about the K-9 account, which I did have email correspondence with him about that, and he's prepared when he comes to this honorable body to talk more about it if you have any specific questions. But the bottom line is about almost $11,000, I believe, in there in the account balance, but it's about 46 or 48,000 to get, train, and maintain the dog. So he is in favor of maintaining that account, building that account to a point where he could, make the decision to move forward and fund it through the revolving account. So that, if you have more specific questions, he will be prepared to talk more about it at that meeting, but that was, in short, a summary of the email that he sent.
Thank you. Are there any other, Councilor Churchill?
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, except for the park department, they have an increase.
That's the only one that was.
Does that mean their percentage is going up, or they anticipate getting more money and the percentage will stay the same?
Percentages stayed the same, but they needed to increase the overall limit so that they could take care of the employee out of that account.
The director.
Now that the director's salary is in that, they had to have a higher limit.
Okay, thank you.
But percentages are the same.
Any other concerns or comments on this matter?
Could I just ask
Yes.
one question we're talking about the revolving funds. You feel comfortable voting on them where you weren't here for the reading? But yeah, I know we talked about it in committee.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure you.
I was just about to ask you that question, but thank you.
Thank you both very much. Yes, I'm perfectly comfortable. Thank
Okay,
you.
just want to make sure. Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, we'll proceed with the vote. This will be a roll call vote, and we'll begin with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Dunley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $193,639.01 from the wastewater retained earnings to fund the wastewater betterment share of debt for fiscal year 2016 budget.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
We're taking from retained earnings, which is money earned, taken in to the wastewater department to cover the debt within the wastewater department.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments on this? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Dinley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Heckney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $100,000 from the wastewater retained earnings fund to the fiscal year 2016 wastewater enterprise fund.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments?
This is taking money that's been taken in through earnings through the wastewater, and it's being used to fund next fiscal year's budget, thereby keeping the water rate, the wastewater rate, stable without any increase.
Are there any concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Heckney?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Dinley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $5,669 from Fund 2500, Receipts Reserved for Appropriation Title V Reserve Fund, to the general fund to provide program funding for fiscal year 2016.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments?
It's an annual movement of money to fund this program for the Title V. Last year was $5,700. This year it's about 56 and change. There's a slight change in numbers every year, but it's always a little over $5,000 that we move over to take care of the Title V issue. That's part of the budget.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Dinley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Heckney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you. I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $70,000 from the water retained earnings to fund the fiscal year 2016 water enterprise budget.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments?
And now we're going on to the water side. We're using some of the retained earnings on the water side to fund the fiscal 2016 budget moving forward again, thereby keeping the water rate stable without any increase.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Heckney?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby? Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Dunley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes. You okay, Councilor? You all set? All right.
I hit the floor.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. The motion passes on that. We'll move on to the next one.
Thank you. I move to approve an appropriation in the amount of $16,514.38 from Fund 8502 Water Reserve for Plant Fund to fund the fiscal year 2016 water enterprise budget.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments?
I wish we had more of these. This is the last of the times that we'll be able to, because this finishes out this account. But this is the last transfer of funds from this reserve fund that was put aside from the grant money over 10 years ago to build in the building of the water treatment plant. So this pays off the debt, the last of the debt payments for the water enterprise. It's sort of like burning the mortgage, right? It pays off the debt for the water treatment plant. So it's 20 years old now. We got to look at it again, right? But But the fact is that this is the last time, it was a 10-year grant, but we had a 20-year note on it. So, but good budgeting number of years ago. So I urge passage of this one.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $400,000 from Fund 8455 Stabilization Fund to the fiscal year 2016 general government.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments? Please.
This is where we are using $400,000 from the stabilization fund just to fund our fiscal year 2016 budget. Since the payment for, if we're looking, I know with a split vote, we approved usage of a amortization plan over 3 years for the snow. That amortization goes at $400,000 over, a little over 400, almost $500,000. You almost look at it as actually taking it partially out of stabilization. But I know the mayor has plans to reimburse this if and when free cash is certified in the fall. And so you can almost look at it as using the stabilization, but keeping that as much in stabilization as possible, because remember, having a healthy stabilization fund helps our overall rating in order to keep our the bond rating as good as possible. So keeping as much in stabilization is always as much recommended as possible. So, and I know that I think Mr. Blair has a motion to reimburse the stabilization. Some from a motion from previous year, during the year, so I think this is the best we can do. You hate to use stabilization as you move forward to fund the budget, but this was the one way that I felt that the mayor, or as I look at it, the mayor could keep this budget balanced by having to dip into the stabilization just a little bit. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Councilor Conti? And then Councilor Churchill.
He had his hand up first.
That's okay. Age before beauty.
You have to go first.
Councilor Churchill. And then Councilor Conti.
Not late either, is it? As you talked about the free cash, did you happen to talk to the auditor? Does she anticipate, and what does she anticipate for free cash?
I did not get a chance to speak with the auditor about free cash. I can do that before Thursday night, but I haven't
Okay.
talked with.
That would be an interesting figure. She's usually on top of that and would have an idea just how much free cash we're gonna have. Not foreseeing in any emergencies.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Conti.
Thank you. I don't like the way this motion is worded, because it does not say that this is going to alleviate snow funds. This says that $400,000 is going into the general government budget. And when that happens from the stabilization fund, I prefer to see that specifically for an intended use, rather than going into the general budget. So I don't like the way this is written. I do believe that we have to fund the general government budget. I don't see paralyzing the city, and I don't see causing an emergency panic in budgeting in the mayor's office. I don't want to impose that upon the mayor. So I will support the measure, but I just want to voice my displeasure. I also want to voice that this shows how thin we sit on that fine line between red and black. This is, like Councilor Kirby said, we've got that $1.5 billion snow burden, but this shows how tight that is, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe that since I've been on this council, we've done it 3 times, be the 4th time. Every time the mayor has come back and refunded the stabilization account in full, It's really just a smart way to kind of do creative finances to get us through the certification of free cash. So, seeing as how in the past we've never had a problem with this, I will support it again.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Council Hegney.
Ms. Hackney?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Dunley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes,
11 yeas, no nays.
the motion passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And finally, for tonight, I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $75,000 of available free cash from the undesignated fund balance free cash to fund the fiscal year 2016 budget.
Second. Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments?
This pretty much cleans out the undesignated fund balance free cash account that was certified in the fall to fund the fiscal 2016 budget. Again, the mayor is looking for, and I don't disagree with what Mr. Conti said, that it's using every available dollar to make sure that that moves forward to fund the 2016 budget. So, and again, I urge my colleagues to pass.
Thank you. Are there any concerns or comments? Councilor Conti?
This one I'll be voting no for, because this $75,000 should have gone to Finberg Field. And I don't think that not supporting the $75,000 transfer is going to create a panic in the mayor's budget. I have to vote against this in order to stay true to my opinion about our prior vote on Finberg Field. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
No.
Mr. Waite?
No.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Parika?
Yes.
Ms. Hackney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
9 yeas, 2 nays.
Motion passes.
Mr. President, that concludes the business for budget and appropriations for this evening. I want to remind my colleagues of our 5:30 meeting on Thursday night, which will be the last of the meetings with department heads. You can then, at any point, you can begin emailing either directly to me or through Linda to me any of your requested comments in the budget message as I begin to work on putting that together. I will not respond to your emails because that would be a violation of open meeting law, but I will take your comments and put them in an overall package, and then we get to hammer them out when we get together in 2 weeks from Thursday. With that, I think that concludes business for this evening. Call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Blair.
Thank you. Thank you. Reporting for Public Works from the docket of June 2nd, 2015. I move to approve the petition of Verizon New England Incorporated and Mass Electric Company to relocate J.O. Poll number T.6710/E.6710 on the northerly side of Olive Street, approximately 634 feet southeasterly from the center line of Robert Street on Olive Street, to allow for proposed street, Riverfront Drive.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Any other concerns or comments? You just said that was on the northeasterly side, right?
Northeasterly side
Northeasterly
of Olive
Okay,
Street.
thank you. Just want to make sure I had that right. Okay. If there are no other concerns or comments, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of June 6, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $200,000 from account 3533-599000, our common backyard Briggs Playground Fund, other financing uses, to account 8455-499000 stabilization fund, other financing sources in order to reimburse the stabilization fund.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, just being true to his word that when we approved this money, he said he would transfer it back as soon as the grant was in.
Okay. Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
Mrs. Perica?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Dunley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of June 2nd, 2015, I move to approve the request of mayor to approve the use of $1,828.25 in Fund 3533, our Common Background Playground Fund, towards the acquisition of security cameras for Briggs Playground.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, only that, I think I already relayed this to Ms. Perica, that cost for those cameras is around $7,000, slightly over $7,000. And our Recreation Director has informed me that there is money available in his revolving fund, I believe, to fund the difference. And my only comment is, if we build it, we protect it. And keep it up, maintain it. And this is part of the maintenance and protection I think is necessary.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns or comments, Councilor Perica?
I just want to say thank you to Councilor Blair. We did talk about it during our budget meeting on Thursday, and I appreciate you asking the director for that information, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Dunley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Perica?
Yes.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you. I have no other business this evening, Public Works, but we request a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Councilor Thibodeau.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reporting for Transportation and Traffic. I have no business this evening. Before I call for a meeting for next week, I would like to bring it to everyone's attention that the response from Casey's law offices should have been in everybody's box tonight. We'll be discussing it next week in committee. Please read through it. And that would conclude my comments about that.
Okay, thank
I
you.
would like to call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. I have no business for public safety and emergency management this evening. We'll have a call for a committee meeting next week at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Perica.
Thank you, President Cook.
You're welcome.
Reporting for City Property and Claims. I appreciate your patience with me this evening. I had to step out to a family obligation and come back, so I appreciate the time for this evening. From the docket of June 2nd, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $594.44 from account 1124100 585-065 citywide telephone upgrade to account 1124100 citywide reserve fund for transfer, as all expenses have been paid to upgrade the telephone system at City Hall.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments?
So we discussed this extensively during the committee meeting. This is, the new phone system is in use. It didn't cost as much as we had hoped, so now we're just transferring money back into the account.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote beginning with Councilor Hegney.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
Mrs. Perica?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Bless you.
Bless
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Dunley?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
From the docket of June 2nd, 2015, I move to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $2,600 to the Recreation Lights and Power to the following two accounts. $350 to Recreation Night Differential, and $2,250 from Recreation Salary and Wages.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
Again, we covered this in committee, and I spoke with Mr. Walsh about this. It's just with the increase in the cost of electricity, we weren't able to budget enough for it, so we need to make some transfers.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Dinley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. Pricker?
Yes.
Ms. Heckman?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes.
Thank you. And finally, I move in accordance with Section 2-12 to approve the request of the mayor to declare the following Park and Forestry Department items as surplus for trade-in or resale value and available for disposition. I did read them in committee, so I'll waive. If it's okay, I would like to waive the reading.
It's fine with me unless somebody has an objection. Thank you. Second was-
Either one of us.
Okay, thank you. The motion, thank you. The motion's in order. Any comments, please?
Nope.
Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Hegney.
Ms. Hegney?
Yes.
Mrs. Pricker?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Waite?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Dunlin?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
11 yeas, no nays.
The motion passes.
That completes the business for city property and claims tonight, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Hegney.
Thank you. Reporting for Personnel and Human Services. Two motions. From the docket of June 2nd, 2015, I move to hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 16th, 2015, to amend Article 16, Uniform and Clothing Allowances of the Personnel Rules and Regulations for exempt employees.
Second. Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
This is to hold a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That hearing will be on 16. Thank you.
From the docket of June 2nd, 2015, I move to establish the position of Constituent Services Administrator on the classification plan at grade 4 to efficiently carry out the duties within the mayor's office.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
No, I don't. We just had a committee meeting at 6:30, and, that's all I have to say.
Are there any other concerns or comments? Councilor Conti.
Mr. President, I'll be voting against this motion as I cannot support this measure proposed by the mayor. Constituent feedback I've received is that this position is the job of ward councilors, and if the position is allowed into the administrative office, it will diminish the need for constituents to contact ward councils. And the best illustration that I can think of to try to demonstrate how I feel about this is a couple of years ago, the Ward 4 councilor had a situation where there was a proposal to do a bunch of trucking for the Attleboro landfill, and the Ward 4 councilor reached out to me to give him a hand, and that's what I see at-large councilors. One of the big advantages of having 6 ward councilors and 5 at-large councilors, that when a ward councilor needs help, they can go to an at-large councilor. Working with the ward council, we put together a public town meeting to bring some fresh air and sunlight to the issue, and the result of that was a withdrawal of the company that was going to do all the trucking. If there was a constituent services manager up in the corner office, that would have gone a different way. And I believe the way it went was the way it should have gone. Constituents talking to the ward councilor about a problem in their ward or a concern that they have, and the ward councilor working through government to solve and resolve the problems. If we put in this position, it diminishes the role of the ward councilor. I think I've illustrated that very well. I'm in complete opposition to this. I would not be in opposition of a higher position. And I think if you heard what I was saying to the personnel director about flat organizational versus central control, you understand how I feel about the duties and responsibilities of that office. I know it's a busy office. Every time I go up there, it's like a 3-alarm fire. There's a lot going on. It's a big city. And I have the opportunity of also seeing the same thing in another city. So, I have something to compare it to. It's very interesting being a municipal finance officer in one city and a municipal councilor in the other city and seeing and observing inside the government how it functions. So I cannot support this position, and that concludes my comments.
Councilor Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
I tend to agree with Councilor Conti's comments. When this was first brought up over a year ago, and we had this position, and we had it filled by his current occupant there. I always thought that maybe there's another way to do it. Maybe we could get some help from somewhere in our education system, get some students here to help us out with something like that. And I'm glad what the mayor's done. I'm glad it's showing dividends and it's working. I just would not. I would not approve another position right now, however, for that. But I would like to use someone with that within our education system to help us out, a student or something. I think that would be greatly appreciated. But again, I like smaller government, and I don't think we're ready for that position right now.
Okay, thank
That
you.
concludes my comment.
Thank you. Let's see. Councilor Hegney and then Councilor Churchill. Councilor Hegney.
Thank you. This is an issue we could be here all night, I think, with some people for or against. And I have to disagree with your analogy because that would not take away from that constituent services. Other services, say if you have a pothole or the structure of the government with the mayor and every department head under him. When we go to a department head, they still work for the administration side of government. Okay? So I don't think it's taking away from my job as a Ward 6 counselor. So even today I had to contact like the DPW or something. But even having somebody, like I said, we could go back and forth all night. I'm just going to respectfully agree to disagree with that analogy because that is something that the Ward 4 councilor did do, and he represented his ward, what he did. But when I get a call for a pothole, speeding, or certain things within the city that the administration has to take care of, that is their duty to take care of it. I don't think it's taken away from my job to get it done. Maybe I'm having another person to work with and not go, I can still go to the department heads. The department heads still work for the top administrator of the city also. They work for the residents and us too. So there's certain analogies I just have to disagree, that's all.
Thank you. Councilor Churchill and then Councilor Blair.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Again, being new to this honorable body, I don't deny that the mayor needs help up there. That's not my concern, and I'm probably going to support this measure. My concern is listening to all the transfers we're making into next year's budget and realizing that we're creating another position that is going to be 40 or 50 or 60,000, depending on the medical background and so forth. I mean, I think that I will support it, but I caution us to realize that, as Mr. Conti said earlier, we're very close to a very, very tight budget next year. This is just going to add to that. But if the mayor feels that he needs the help, and I don't deny that he probably does, having been a department head, and I know that he's only got 2 other people up there. But I think that at some point in time, all these jobs that we created over the last few years may come back to haunt us, but that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Blair and Councilor Blair.
I agree with Ms. Hegney. I think this will only help us, help the constituents. My councilman to the right explained it very simply. When you have a constituent that has a problem, they want an answer, and they can get pretty frustrated without getting an answer. So if this position helps our constituents feel more at ease, then I think it's a plus. And it's a quick answer, not an answer a week away that tends, as Walter says, to infuriate somebody that's got a small problem and it gets into a large problem, if only through their anxiousness. I think this is a way to help us, help the administration, because it's definitely a busy office. Mr. Conti's been there. I'm there many a times. I know we stopped by that office and they're going in all kinds of directions, even with the extra help they have now. So, I mean, it's just gonna put more responsibility on that person or person that takes that job. And I think we've quantified their responsibilities and duties.
Thank you. Councilor Parikh, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Okay, I thought I did.
Thank
Councilor
you.
Parikh, please.
Thank you very much. I've done my research on this. The presentation of the job was in the budget message. The mayor spoke about it to us the night he presented the budget. We have tons of backup documentation. I've had many phone calls from constituents who have concerns about creating a new position that we are going to continually have to fund, that, as Councilor Churchill said, it could be a little sketchy for next year. I think that we have a couple of positions in line items in our budget that are not funded, we would be in a better position to fund those that would have a greater impact on our community. I never want to prevent a constituent from being able to have access to anybody or to get an answer as quickly as possible. But I don't necessarily think that this is the right move, and this is what I have been asked to advocate for, to not necessarily create this position. And that concludes my comments as well.
Thank you. Councilor Blair?
Just a quick comment. We have a position on the books for an assistant mayor that we don't fund. So making this position doesn't make it a permanent factor.
Councilor Denley?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I find Mr. Conti's comments to be strange reasoning for me. To me, the best reasoning against this would be the mayor's doing a great job, his office is doing great, therefore we don't need a new position, and once you fund the position, it never goes away. That was my argument last year against the assistant personnel director. It's hard for me to even tackle. So when the mayor got an intern, I don't feel like my job as a ward councilor was diminished. I got the same number of phone calls. I still helped out people. And if the mayor gets a constituent services administrator, I certainly don't feel like my job as a ward councilor will be diminished or that I will get any less phone calls. Very strange argument. What I think is that we need to weigh the tangible costs, which is financial, money, against the intangible benefits, which is how much can this help the residents of Attleboro. And the mayor's office is busy. They're doing a great job of what they can do. But I certainly think that there's room for them to have something more than an intern and less than an assistant. Is this a position that will probably be funded going forward? Yes. And that is why we have to weigh that tangible cost versus the intangible benefits. To me, it has nothing to do with ward councilors versus at-large councilors or constituents. That's all very strange. But I do see that the benefits outweigh the costs, and I will support this position.
Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll be having a roll call vote, and the vote will begin with Councilor Denley.
Mr. Denley?
Yes.
Mr. Churchill?
Yes.
Mr. Conti?
No.
Mr. Waite?
No.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Thibodeau?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
No.
Ms. Parika?
No.
Ms. Heckney?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes.
7 yeas. 1, 2, 3.
No.
4. 7 and 4. 4 nays, 7 yeas.
Motion passes.
That is all the business I have for Personnel and Human Services, and call for committee at the next appropriate time. And I sent a message to a guest I'm having. I'm just waiting back.
Okay.
And that should probably be quick. It's just for a planning board appointment.
Okay,
I've just been
probably, and Lynn, if you're there, we'll probably, since I anticipate the discussions with Mr. Rajan over the flood map may take a little bit longer.
Yes.
Then we should do that one first, but I also want to remind everybody, next week, we are also having a public hearing on the budget next week. This is a special meeting, so you'll know.
Budget and water and wastewater.
Right, yeah, budget always, I mean, my budget has been all over. Okay, there we go. There was no old business, but there was one item of new business, and I would recognize Councilor Thibodeau.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome.
From the docket of June 16, 2015. I move that the following matter be referred to the appropriate committee for study and recommendation, that no parking signs be installed on the east side of Berwick Road from pole number 7261 through pole number 7268. These signs are needed to prevent vehicles from parking on the shoulder of the roadway and depressing said shoulder to degrade the embankment of the river, also adjacent to the roadway. And if I may, Mr. President, this request is being made by the city's conservation agent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. Are there any comments, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Evidently, between the crew that was working on the construction of the apartments or condominiums, whatever it is, it's right on the curve. Between that crew and other construction crews that have been working in the area, they seem to take their breaks and their lunches, truck and all, because they can fit it on that little side of the roadway there, the shoulder. And this beautiful grass is coming up there now that we've had some rain, but it's awfully soft. And she's concerned, the conservation agent is concerned that if they're there too often, the embankment begins. It's a very steep embankment, I'd say about 20 feet anyway, down to the water. And if that continues to happen, eventually it's going to get so loose up above that it's going to start to go right down into the water. So I checked it out, and I think she's going to go upstairs and talk to Ron about it. And Ron, in fact, Ron had mentioned to her at the time, she brought it to my attention, that he was going to make a call over to Chief Hegney and ask him if he could host it temporarily until we got the paperwork done to keep any more damage from happening over there on that embankment.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Council Conti?
Yes, Mr. President. Ordinarily, I wouldn't comment on new business because I think all councils feel that most new business should be entered, but this is at my front door. So obviously, yeah, it's relevant that I support the new business coming in. In addition to the comments made by Councilor Thibodeau, this particular spot, Berwick Road was paved last year. Upon the paving, they installed what's called a Cape Cod berm on that side of the road that abuts what used to be called Mechanics Pond and has now been reclassified as Mechanics River. There are different laws for the activity that can take place next to a river versus next to a pond. I didn't know that. Apparently, Mechanic Pond now has different regulations that affect the activities. That, for example, the new neighborhood that's down, I think it's, we're not going to go there. That spot that you're referring to is most commonly used by fishermen that park their cars there and fish. And there is plenty of adequate other parking around that river that fishermen can park at. This is not going to cause an undue hardship to any sportsman. And I fully support the measure. It's my neighborhood. My neighbors support it. And we're happy that the council will be taking it up. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Any other concerns or comments? Councilor Blair?
My comment is that I happened to be with Walter when he was approached a day or so ago, a couple of days ago, right?
That's right.
And the speed in which he took care of it on his end, or the council's end, shows what a dedicated gentleman he is, and when something's brought up to him, he takes care of it. So it might not have been a constituent, Walter, but you sure made it go in the right directions. I thank you.
Embarrassment. I mean, it was put in my lap. I have to drive from here to home anyway.
I followed you up there. You didn't see me. I wanted to make sure.
You know what? Yeah, I know you did.
Okay, any other concerns or comments in this matter?
Make a motion to
Hearing
adjourn.
none. All those in, excuse me?
Make a motion to adjourn.
No, yeah, we have a vote on this.
Would we what?
The motion's out of order.
Oh, what do we do?
At this time, we need to, on the new business item, we need to take care of that first. So, at this point, If there's no other comments or concerns, this matter requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passed. I'm going to refer that matter to the Transportation and Traffic Committee. And Councilor Liberty, do you want to also refer that to the Traffic Study Commission
Yes,
for
Mr. President.
same recommendation?
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. That will also refer the Traffic Study Commission. And Councilor Thibodeau, at that point, you're planning then to, when they finish their work, come back and call for public hearing on it?
Yes.
At some point, not
Yeah,
now?
whether the
Okay.
temporary signs are put up or not, that's the procedural
Right.
stuff that we have to follow.
Right, okay. Thank you. That concludes all the business for this evening. And so I would entertain Councilor Hagney's motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. The motion's in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. We're adjourned at 9:05. Thank you very much.
I cannot take this thing.
I got bit by a spider.
Hey, hold on one second. I need to talk to you first. But I need to talk to Rick first.
I got it written down in my wallet.
I got it written down in this envelope.
I got a sticky note